The Neocot, or the more correct term, the Mansell Neonatal Retrieval System, comprises two main units, the Neocot unit, which is built on a sled, and the power lifter. This video will explain the procedure for loading and unloading the integrated system in and out of SA ambulances, RFDS aircraft, the SA rescue helicopter, and interstate ambulances. The responsibilities of loading and unloading the Neocot rests with the retrieval team for ambulances, RFDS staff for the aircraft, and the helicopter crew for their craft. The power lifter has its own battery and a standard 240 volt charger. There are two leads stored in a compartment. A standard 240 volt lead for the power and battery charger, plus a 12 and 28 volt lead. Both will allow its operation in the case of a flat battery. All the operating controls are on this panel, and the end where it is located is considered to be the rear of the lifter. The on-off power switch incorporates an auto-off feature which operates after 12 minutes inactivity. Switching it off, then on again, reactivates the controls. There are indicator lights that illuminate when the battery is charging and charging complete. On each end of the control panel are buttons that are used to extend and retract the powered legs. As the legs are controlled independently, a spirit level is provided to assist with keeping the lifter level. Both sets of legs have wheels with the front fixed and the rear steerable with brakes. The Neocot sled can be rotated on the power lifter. This ability is required because the loading positions vary for different ambulances and aircraft, and on most occasions the retrieval team prefers the cot front facing towards them. When carrying out this procedure, check that the ground is solid and stable with enough clearance to rotate the sled. For obvious reasons, avoid sand and gravel surfaces. Once you've selected your site, lock the power lifter brakes and adjust the unit to a suitable working height. At the lighter end of the cot, pull the release cable towards you and slightly to the right to release the locking pin. Now, slide the Neocot sled towards you until the identifying arrows on the sled and power lifter are aligned. For safety reasons, it's important to have someone assist you in lining up these arrows. Walk 180 degrees around the power lifter to the opposite end. Slide the Neocot back onto the power lifter and lock it into position. Identifying arrows on the sled and lifter should now be aligned. The most important point to remember when rotating the cot is to keep the foot of the heavy end centrally located over the lifter's wheel base. Start by selecting a suitable site for loading the ambulance, remembering the ground needs to be flat, level and as solid as possible. Check the cot's orientation to the type of vehicle it's going into, as it's preferred for the baby to be facing the attendant's seat. Turn the power lifter on and raise it to a height where all the guide wheels are higher than the ambulance floor. Now line up the front guide wheels with the track on the floor and push it forward until the wheels are level with the point that's just in from the rear edge. Once in this position, retract the front legs until the guide wheels take the weight of the unit on the floor. Now using your body weight against the lifter to prevent outward movement, continue to retract the legs completely. If you happen to catch these leg wheels on the back step, stop. Extend the legs slightly, pull the unit out just far enough for the wheels to clear the step, then continue retracting the legs. When they're fully retracted, push it further in to a point where the centre guide wheels are level with the rubber strip on the rear edge of the floor. Press the rear retract button on the control panel and fully retract the rear legs. The unit will now roll into the ambulance. After the ambulance officer has secured the Neocot, turn off the lifter's internal power at the control panel. If oxygen is required during the trip, connect it to the ambulance supply. This can be from any outlet that's convenient. Once connected, turn the O2 indicator switch to external and check that flow is available. The same with power. When connected to the ambulance supply, check the switch is on DC and power is available. Start by turning on the cot's internal oxygen and power. Check both are operating correctly and then disconnect them from the ambulance supply. After the floor locking device has been released, turn the lifter power on and pull it out until the centre dolly wheels are just in from the rear edge of the ambulance floor. Using your body weight to resist the cot's tendency to try and roll outward, extend the rear legs until they come in contact with the ground, and the centre dolly wheels clear the floor. Once the rear legs have taken the weight, pull it out further until the front guide wheels are just in from the rear edge. Now extend the front legs to the ground. Continue extending until the front guide wheels are clear of the ambulance floor. If at some stage the unit did roll outward without the legs being fully extended, it will come down onto rubberized feet located just behind the guide wheels, preventing it from rolling out completely. As you wheel the Neocot away from the ambulance, adjust the lifter height to a safe and comfortable working level. As the rear of the Ford 350 series automatically lowers when the back doors are opened, the tendency of the cot to try and roll outward during loading and unloading is dramatically increased. The Neocot on the power lifter is a very heavy piece of equipment, and when you combine this rolling weight with the sloping floor of these vehicles, an extra person to give hands-on help is necessary, especially with the unloading. It's necessary to prepare the aircraft for the Neocot by removing the forward stretcher. If fitted, the suction outlet and oxygen flow meter are also removed. The medical equipment brackets are slid aft, and the Neocot restraint bracket is aligned with the yellow mark on the equipment rail. Before loading the Neocot, check that the power cables are safely tucked away and the cot is facing the right way on the lifter. The Perspex front needs to be on your left when you are facing the control panel. Adjust the lifter's height until the front and centre guide wheels are slightly higher than the loader dolly. Try to keep the Neocot level. Roll it onto the loader and align the mark on the front end wheels of the lifter with the outer mark on the loader dolly. Now fully retract the front legs. When the front legs are fully retracted, push it onto the loader dolly until the mark on the centre wheels of the lifter is aligned with the outer marker on the dolly. Once aligned, fully retract the rear legs and push the whole unit on. Keep forward pressure on the unit as it has a tendency to try and roll outward as the weight is transferred to the dolly. Secure the locking mechanism and check it's fully engaged by pushing and pulling the lifter. Turn the lifter power off at the power panel as this is a requirement of air safety regulations. The raising of the stretcher loader, the manoeuvring of the dolly into the aircraft and locking it into place are no different to normal procedures. Once the loading dolly is locked in position, connect the Neocot oxygen hose to the aircraft outlet and turn the cot oxygen selector valve to external. Verify that oxygen is flowing. Be sure to turn off the internal oxygen bottles, another air safety requirement. Check the aircraft 240 volt AC outlet to ensure power is available. Now, take the Neocot 240 volt cable, lay it out of the way and connect it to the aircraft outlet. Change the Neocot battery power supply selector to AC and verify it's operating. In its present position, the Neocot obstructs the wing emergency exit, so unlock the sled from the lifter and slide it aft to the flight position. This must be carried out by 2 people. The final thing to do for flight is to lock the Neocot into the restraint bracket on the equipment rail, then recheck the security of the whole unit. Start unloading the Neocot by disconnecting it from the restraint bracket and repositioning it on the lifter to the ground lock position. Change the Neocot power supply to its internal battery. Disconnect the 240 volt cable from the aircraft and place it back in its holder. Next, turn on the internal oxygen supply and change the selector valve to internal. Then disconnect the oxygen hose from the aircraft outlet and store it correctly on the Neocot. Unlock the aircraft loader dolly and manoeuvre it out of the aircraft onto the loader as normal, then lower it to ground level. When at the required level, turn on the lifter's power. Unlock it from the loader dolly and pull it outward until the mark on its centre guide wheels aligns with the outer mark on the dolly. While using your body weight to resist the tendency of the Neocot to roll outward, extend the rear legs of the lifter until the centre wheels are raised off the dolly. Next, pull it outward until the mark on the front guide wheels of the lifter aligns with the outer mark on the dolly. Then extend the front legs until the guide wheels are clear and the power lifter is self-supporting. Now move it clear of the aircraft and lower the cot to a comfortable working height. As the power lifter will not go into most interstate ambulances, a clip deck to hold the Neocot sled has been developed to go on their stretchers. It weighs 12 kilograms and is stowed in the aircraft behind the cargo net. It's designed to lie directly on the stretcher frame, but in most cases it will be necessary to place a folded blanket under the centre to provide a level platform. Once fitted, the clip deck must be fastened in each corner to the stretcher with the provided Velcro straps. Before commencing the transfer, consider which way the cot will be facing once loaded into the ambulance. With the cot's orientation correct, position the Interstate stretcher at the power panel end and adjust the lifter's height to a point where the clip deck and sled rails are level. Now lock the brakes of the lifter and stretcher. With a minimum of one person on each corner of the sled, release the Neocot locking mechanism and slide it off the power lifter onto the clip deck. Transferring directly from the aircraft loading dolly is okay as long as there's no baby on board and the cot front is facing the right direction for loading into the ambulance. Once on the clip deck, open the scissor clamps on the provided straps and secure each corner of the Neocot to the stretcher. Take care that the straps are passed around the blue frame of the cot and are clear of any medical equipment. Also, the straps need to go around the main frame of the stretcher, avoiding any movable parts or mechanisms. To secure, pull down on the free end of the strap and while maintaining tension, close the scissor clamp. Always check that the clamp has locked correctly. Removing the cot from an interstate ambulance stretcher is the reverse of this procedure. In the Northern Territory, the clip deck is not required as the lifter can be carried in their ambulances, but on the left-hand side. It can also be carried on the right side, but as the floor slopes up towards the front of the vehicle, problems with loading and unloading will be encountered. All normal safety requirements and regulations must be observed when working in and around the helicopters. Following the instructions of the flight crew is imperative, as the loading and unloading is totally their responsibility. The slide on which the unit is loaded will be installed into the aircraft prior to its dispatch from the Adelaide Airport. To start loading into the helicopter, align the front of the power lifter with the extended slide. At the same time, adjust its overall height to a point where the rails of the Neocot sled and the slide are level. Apply the brakes of the power lifter, then place your foot on the crossbar to help prevent the lifter tipping forward as the cot is transferred. The aircrew will release the locking mechanism and move the cot sled onto the helicopter slide. The unit is then locked onto the slide, pushed into the aircraft and the slide locked into position. When oxygen is required, connect to the aircraft supply on the roof. Turn off the internal oxygen bottle, change the selector valve to external and verify the oxygen is flowing. If power is required, plug the ambulance power lead into the aircraft's power supply on the roof. Change the Neocot power switch to external. Once the cot is loaded, the power lifter is wheeled around to the left or winch side of the aircraft and lowered completely. The power lifter is loaded towards the rear of the aircraft first and then slid in front of the seat. Straps are then applied to secure the unit in the helicopter. Passenger space is limited when the power lifter is carried as the third seat cannot be used. Travel to destination for parents will have to be made by other means. Unloading the Neocot from the helicopter begins with the power lifter being removed from the aircraft, placed on the ground and elevated. Before removing the Neocot, switch its power supply to internal and disconnect the cable from the aircraft. Also, turn on the cot's internal oxygen supply, switch its oxygen control valve to internal, then disconnect the hose from the aircraft. The aircrew will unlock the slide from the helicopter and extend it. Now line the power lifter up with the front of the slide and adjust its height to a point slightly lower than the cot. When position and height is satisfactory, apply the brakes. Then, place your foot on the crossbar to help prevent the lifter tipping as the cot sled is transferred. The clamp holding the cot on the slide is released and the Neocot sled is moved onto the power lifter and check to make sure the locking pins are engaged. Finally, release the brakes and while wheeling the Neocot on the power lifter away from the aircraft, lower it to a better working height.